Hey, you want to see what happens when I use this copy ability in Squad Strike and then have it get deleted mid-charge? This is very clearly wrong, you know, he's dashing backwards and sliding around a little bit before the game just suffers cardiac arrest and explodes. I forgot to change my console language, but I'm sure the message here transcends just words. This comes from a recent Yeet Smash video, a clip from a tournament called Fragapalooza, where the same thing happened. Credit to Funky Boy in my Discord for bringing it up, link to the server down below if you want to submit your own facts. In the clip, Kirby got his neutral special removed, then he started sliding, and the game died like we saw earlier. So I'm sure you've got theories as to why this happened. Surely it has something to do with stance changing, right? Where the opponent's character is different from the one Kirby's copy ability is mimicking, and how in Squad Strike when a character gets KO'd, their character data gets removed, hence why Kirby's ability disappears mid-charge. That's all well and good, but I guarantee you that if you went into your game, set this all up, and tried to replicate it, you most likely wouldn't get it right away. And if you're like me, you probably wouldn't get it for a while. I want to go over tests and specific mechanics for the many ways this glitch breaks the game, but I also want to give you some context into the actual process of testing and replicating it, because I assure you it is way dumber than you think, and seeing how inconsistent the factors are will tell you just how weird this all is. I'll leave a timestamp to when I start explaining the glitch itself if you don't really care about replicating it or the whole process. Major shoutouts to all the lovely folks in my Discord server for helping me with testing. Specifically, a shout out to Alice and Chaz for getting me footage from their native hardware, and a big shout out to Lunai for doing the bulk of the testing from their Super Switch, as we'll call it, where they were able to get it much more consistently. We'll talk more about hardware later. So if you're trying this and not getting any success, I bet one of the first thoughts you'd have would be, oh, the ability is being removed the moment the attack is fully charged, right? So this is basically a frame perfect glitch or something. But the exact frame in which the attack was removed actually varied quite a bit throughout the tests. That is to say, it is not a very precise glitch. As long as you're using the move in general, and the move disappears in the middle of its use, that's all you really need. Okay, so maybe it's the opponent that follows Pokemon Trainer that's required. Maybe it has to be Sephiroth or something? Nope, we've had tests without Sephiroth and it still worked. Here, the next character would have been Game & Watch. Some testers claimed that having Sephiroth following Pokemon Trainer made the glitch happen more consistently for them, but I've seen the contrary as well, so it's hard to say. Okay, so is it the stage? Nope, it seems to be able to happen anywhere. Okay, maybe you need to move the moment the ability goes away. Well, that works sometimes, but for all my tests, I was standing completely still and it still glitched. Basically, every factor we could think of had an exception. Either it didn't replicate it consistently, or people were able to do the glitch without those factors, thus meaning they're not required. All of this would kind of just leave one major option I'm considering: hardware. I don't know what exactly the factor of hardware is, but it would completely explain why certain people were getting massively different results at different times. And yeah, that's kind of a roundabout way of saying it's just random. Going back to Lunai, who was using a Super Switch, they were able to get the glitch to happen over half the time they made attempts. Obviously, a Super Switch is different hardware from my normal native one, primarily in the sense that loading times will be way faster with the power being way higher. Yet I have one of the oldest Switch models out there, still the same from the first week of launch. Like, dude, look at these load times, this is crazy. I actually don't know if my console's age even affects this. But like, maybe ironically, the faster your hardware loads things, the more often this glitch can happen? But then I noticed I seem to have more consistent success with the glitch when I tried it immediately after my Switch had been left off for a while, which I would have thought would make it slower. And on the flip side, the day before, I had made attempts for like 3 hours straight after having my Switch on for a while, and I couldn't get it to happen even a single time. Yes, I tried for 3 hours to get this to happen at first because I really wanted to show it to everyone. I guess I'm just a complacent creator, what can I say? That's this version of complacent as opposed to this version, which is different. Oh, for my blind viewers who can't see the pictures, here are the definitions in Braille. But anyways, the Switch models of my fellow native hardware testers were kinda all over the place. Some relatively new, others older, and none of them seemed to have considerably higher odds of getting the glitch. So, if you're on native hardware, maybe try doing it immediately after turning on the console. And if you have a Super Switch, you might just straight up have better odds, but again, I don't know. I'm stressing this not only because it's super weird for a glitch to be like this, but also because I know people like to try them out for themselves after watching my videos, and if you go hours without being able to get it once, yeah, trust me, I've been there myself. So for anyone hoping to replicate this, we've narrowed down what we believe to be the bare minimum required factors for this glitch to happen. Step 1 is getting a copy ability of a character who has a stance change ability, so either Pokemon Trainer or Pyro/Mythra. You technically get more attempts per round if you have both of them in a row, so I'd recommend that. Step 2 is switch the character to someone different from the copy ability that you have. Step 3 is have that character get KO'd. Step 4 is to start using that copy ability from the character who is different from the one that got KO'd. Step 5 is to have it disappear when the character unloads while you're using it. And step 6 is just hoping that you get it. The other characters in the Squad Strike roster, and whether or not it was a 3v3 or a 5v5, didn't seem to really change odds or anything. The glitch worked in a variety of scenarios, and any other factors seemed to be more anecdotal rather than something required. We were unable to replicate this glitch with any charging move though. Granted, a grain of salt is necessary since the data was from Lunai's Super Switch, but I'm willing to trust it as the Super Switch seemed to only differ in glitch frequency rather than core mechanics, but still it's hard to say. The thing is though, the glitch worked just fine with Pyro and Mythra, despite their neutral specials not being a traditional charge. Not to mention that this glitch also works with Charizard's neutral special, and I imagine probably Ivysaur's as well. So that's what leads us to believe the stance change is the primary factor here rather than specifically being a charge move. But enough about the how. Let's get into what even happens here, because even that seems to vary a lot. The most basic effect you could see is just a simple game crash. You'll notice that the copy ability hasn't been removed quite yet when the game combusts. My thought is that it's probably happening on the same frame it's trying to remove the ability and it just gives up. Now, there was one time when the game crashed after the charge had been removed, but it's hard to say if it's the same variant or if it's the upcoming second variant, because sometimes the game just pulled life support at random times for that one. This is still really funny, but it's also way more basic than the other two main forms of the glitch. The first of which is where Kirby's movement becomes really funky. He'll probably start out being unable to move forward, but if you turn around, you'll gain the ability to move again. And here he slides instead of walking, his dashes and runs are backwards, and when he shields, he'll do this pretty gnarly headbang like he's listening to Judas Priest or something. And if you roll, he'll just... well, it's not quite a T-pose, though it certainly might look like it. But if we go into the camera, we'll see that he's doing the same shield pose, except he's just facing a different axis now. And when I did this, I just got completely stuck. The more consistent ways I found this glitch to crash are either by inputting jump, or by interacting with another character in basically any way. I think going towards a ledge triggered it sometimes too, but like I mentioned before, sometimes this variant of the glitch would crash just cuz. Yeah, this variant was definitely the most inconsistent of the bunch. Sometimes the exact ways in which the movement would be glitched would be kinda off from what I've been showing. And while you might think that being airborne is what causes the jump and ledge thing to crash, Lunai was also somehow able to get this to happen, so yeah, maybe sky's the limit, I don't know. The general idea was still the same throughout though. The other outcome of this glitch is perhaps the most broken, but it's when Kirby gets completely stuck. I'm inputting basically everything I can and nothing is changing. Well, except for shield, which kinda works but then just leaves me in this position with a very tiny baby shield that doesn't go away. This is actually active, by the way, as hitting it sometimes causes the shield effect to work. Its hitbox is really weird. And if you hit it enough, the shield will break, which pops Kirby up, but he doesn't get stunned and he's still stuck in the glitch state. And yes, in this form, Kirby can actually be interacted with without crashing the game, which has its own fair share of benefits. That being, given that Kirby can actually exist in the air without crashing the game as well, that means you can also get KO'd. And instead of deep frying your console, this just puts the opponent into purgatory. You can see Kirby is still right there on the minimap, but no inputs are coming through, the KO isn't properly cycling you to the next character, and the game is just stuck in this position with no real way to move forward. So yeah, there's just not really that much to do. Additionally, Kirby is able to buffer an input out of shield, though the timing is kinda weird. So by doing this into a grab, this allows you to easily buffer other things out of that. Like I swear the buffer period is super delayed for some reason, feeling like a full second of delay, which puts it only slightly faster than Nintendo's online servers. The funniest thing is when you buffer a taunt, as once the animation is over, Kirby will simply T-pose. And in this state, he's actually unable to input anything. It's been a while since I've seen a T-pose in the game, so it's nice to see that back. You can hit him out of it at least, and at this point you're probably noticing that there's a whole lot of no crashes happening. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had the game crash while I got this variant of the glitch. If anything, it's worse, a softlock. Cause remember, whenever you KO Kirby in any way, he'll get stuck, leaving the match unable to progress. You know, unless you just die. So I guess not a softlock. Also no, when looking into the camera, I couldn't see Kirby stuck anywhere down in the bottom blast zone. This doesn't mean he's not there, but if he is, I just can't see him like this. And the fun thing about this whole glitch, it's possible there's even more niche, or even big effects that I'm missing out on. Not to mention how many other forms of testing I could do, like introducing items or trying to use other moves or anything else. That is to say, this isn't even as thorough of a test as I could do. But given that trying to get this to happen just once is like shiny hunting, and how I can't really control which of the variants of the glitch happens, and how I once went about 3 hours into tests without getting it to happen, and I think I'm happy to leave it there. As always, feel free to make your own attempts on this glitch to see if anything super funky or unique happens, but as far as a glitch showcase goes, I think we're good. And you can let me know down in the comments which glitch you found to be weirder, this one or the silhouette glitch, which I covered a while back. If you haven't seen that one, I'll leave a link in the description. Also, while we're here, Ash Prater brought up something regarding Squad Strike in my Discord. I actually can't remember if I ever talked about this on the channel before, so I'm just gonna say it anyways. But if the Ice Climbers get KO'd with their Final Smash active, when the game unloads the assets, the mist will just linger forever. Actually, is this mist or is it fog? Oh, let me look up the difference. Okay, so I guess fog is just thicker than mist. I mean, either way, it's a pretty sick mood setter. I tried this out with every other Final Smash that allows the user to move around during it and thus be KO'd, and nothing else was able to replicate this sort of effect. And yeah, I tried to do the weird Kirby glitch with the fog present, and it didn't work the first time, and I didn't feel like trying it again. Sticking with Final Smashes, the Lobstercopter 5000 told me a fact in my chat during a live stream regarding Ness's Final Smash, and I kind of forgot to save that. But basically, let's just do some counting, okay? Count the number of stars that come from Ness's PK Starstorm kit. If you got 7, you're wrong. It's 16. Wow, you were way off. Yeah, so Ness's PK Starstorm normally sends a volley of 16 stars throughout its duration, which is kinda like 8 pairs of stars, which is kinda like 8 melodies, which is kinda like a reference, which is kinda... Okay, so I just used the move, yeah, all without doing anything else. Let's use the Final Smash again and get counting. And this time, I'll do it alongside you just to help out. Well now, where do these extra 2 come from? Yeah, that's the fact. After you've used PK Starstorm once, the following PK Starstorm will have an additional 2 stars. And you can probably pinpoint exactly where these extra stars are. Normally there's a buffer period between when you activate the Final Smash and when the stars start falling, but with the, what I'll call the PK Starstorm Omega, you can see that the moment the attack gets used, there's already 2 whole stars on the stage. It's basically instantaneous, which can really catch someone off guard. And that's kind of what makes me believe that PK Starstorm Omega is not what the attack should be, but is instead a glitch. Like perhaps the buffer period before the stars fall doesn't get reset after its first use, allowing the stars to start falling instantly in consecutive use. This is paired with the fact that you lose PK Starstorm Omega after you get KO'd, so you need to use 2 Final Smashes in one life to be able to even see this. And this is additionally paired with the fact that nothing like this happens for Lucas. We've done enough counting for today, so I'll spare you and just say that Lucas's Final Smash has 14 stars come down, and this never changes no matter how many times I use the attack. And with Lucas, there is an obvious buffer between the activation and when the stars fall, so I feel like that's what the developers were going for. It's kind of a shame because PK Starstorm Omega is straight up better, given how easily those first 2 stars can catch someone off guard. Like, I mean, not that much better, but it's still better, but oh well. And fun fact, by using Ness's Final Smash and then Lucas's, this does not reset the state of Ness's and he'll still gain access to PK Starstorm Omega. And lastly for Final Smashes, and today, the Requiem Dragon brought up a funny little tech on my Discord. Normally, Ganondorf's Final Smash is pretty powerful, dealing a great amount of damage very quickly and with really good KO potential. But for some reason, it's just not working against Ridley here. It's pathetic damage, impossible to KO. Is Ganondorf actually low tier? No, that would be stupid. It's actually because of the mechanic where, if you interrupt the charge of Ridley's neutral special, he takes a certain range of damage and experiences a stun. Yes, the stun is basically set. meaning even if you're at a trillion Brazilian %, you won't experience knockback. As you can imagine, any final smash that's a single hit can be completely negated by just using this tactic, assuming that just dodging is too difficult, which for some final smashes it kinda is. Though for Bowser's, funny enough, the insta-KO effect completely ignores this Ridley mechanic. The insta-KO normally comes into play in these settings starting at exactly 60%, when the final smash would leave the opponent at around 108% total. However, doing this tech as Ridley still gets him insta-KO'd at 60%. This is despite the damage reduction still taking place, which we can see by the percent right before the KO. This would imply that Bowser's Fist isn't going off of knockback or damage dealt to determine if it's an insta-KO, but rather just what the opponent's percent is at beforehand. Which means even if the opponent has extreme Giga defense from spirits, the final smash will still have the same KO range. So that's kinda neat. Going back to the Ridley tech, of course this doesn't affect anything that's multi-hit, as the first hit will trigger the stun mechanic, but then obviously the rest will come into play. This also doesn't affect cutscene final smashes, as their properties are much more unique than any other singular hit. You can see that Kirby's initial hit is dealing way more damage than usual, but the move just doesn't care about stuns or anything and continues as normal. It's kind of a funny idea of a tech, but it's very limited in what its effectiveness can be. What's also limited is the time left on this video, because I am now done. Originally, I didn't actually have much to say in this outro section, but while I was working on the video, Smash got a new update. Yeah, almost 3 years since Sora came out, it's crazy. It's obviously not a big update, just listing a change to the GSP system, so there's not really a lot to cover. But that's not to say there's nothing. There's a lot of, admittedly really funny misinformation about what's changed and what hasn't, but apparently a legit one is how, with certain GameCube controller adapters, they've been kinda broken and now will have one controller affect, say, 2 characters at the same time. That was a little while back before this video has gone up, so I have no idea if they've actually patched that. But I also don't want to go out and buy my own adapter just to see that it is patched, so I'm just gonna throw that out there. Now, I don't think this actually has anything to do with the Smash update in specific, but would rather come from a console update that happened around the same time. So no, I don't think this implies that Smash was touched in any meaningful way outside of the GSP change, so I think glitches from the past are still perfectly safe. But, you know, if anyone feels like double checking, feel free to let me know down in the comments. But for now, that'll be it. And with that, I'd like to thank my divine patrons Raighne, Still700, Burbo, and everyone else for their massive support. Stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.